Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, one of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going, a weekly video games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. Back with another episode. This is episode number 446 for Sunday, the 23rd of August. And here with me, as always, I have with me my stalwart partners in crime, starting with Mr. DBQ Hams. How you doing, DBQ?
Doing good. Glad to be back for another week. Kind of a slow week for releases, but looking at the calendar, it seems like it's picking up. So turning the corner into fall.
Slow week this week for new releases. Slow week the preceding week for new releases, which is the week we are reporting on. Very busy for news. Very busy for releases next week. Tao. My other partner in crime, Tao, Master 99. How you doing, Tao?
Are you sure? I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, I screwed up my slip slide smoothly into the second intro, so I apologize for that. We are going to follow our normal format tonight, starting with segment one, our main gaming experience stories for the week. And I am going to start us off with some more discussion of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. There was something. That's fine. Didn't really quite want to start there, but the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about, give a refresh on performance. I'm trying to find exactly where that is, so let me try the correct screen share. And so the first time that I played this, I was on the first time when I started this, I was on RTX 4070 Super. I moved it over to the big metal, the RTX 5080. And on the RTX 4070 Super, I was right on the edge of 60 frames per second. I'd mentioned that I was planning on keeping my settings there because I was confident that when I moved it, it would be fine. I mentioned that I normally don't accept dips below 60, but I decided to leave it there because, like I said, when I moved it, I knew it was going to go up. And so the results of that are even more amazing than I expected. So I moved it to my box with the RTX 5080. Again, I was running at 4K. NVIDIA DLSS enabled, 101% field of view, upscaler quality on balanced. I did have frame gen on, and I turned it on 6x frame gen, which I didn't even realize the RTX 5000 series was doing. Now I thought it was 2 on the 4000 series and 4 on the 5000 series. But apparently either that's been updated or maybe I was just mistaken. As you can see here, I'm getting 295 average frames per second, which is ridiculous because the display that this is hooked up to can't even do 295. It's a 144 hertz display, so I've got more frames coming out than the display can render. My lowest 1% was 136. My lowest 0.1% was 155, which I think most gamers would just be happy just playing at 155. So pretty remarkable. I'm not even using half of the VRAM that I have available on the unit. Some more settings here, ray tracing, and this is with ray tracing cranked all the way up, right at ultra high. So pretty impressive what the Anvil engine is doing in this game. I mentioned the other week that I talk about Snowdrop all the time, but it's even not more readily impressive, but it's also impressive that another Ubisoft engine that doesn't hardly get nearly as much praise, the Anvil engine. So I captured some gameplay this week. In this segment, you have gone to catch this guy called the Sage. You're hanging out with the Templars here, and you're attacked by the assassins. It's a pretty neat little set piece. It really gets you, I think, really the first time in the game that you're really able to use all of your various skills and weapons at scale. You can see the assassins coming here from the rooftops. And as it gets further on in this episode, in this particular segment, they'll be coming in from the ground or from the alleyways and stuff. So I toss a smoke bomb here. I fire I started using my revolver, which I just recently obtained from my partners in crime here, the Templars. And so I've been using that as well. I was trying to kind of get refamiliar with some of the controls here. As you can see, some of the assassins now are kind of starting to use some of the more advanced combat techniques. And it's just really, and also the interesting thing here, you can also see each of the members of your party who are assisting you here each have their own individual combat styles. Anyway, it was just a pretty awesome sequence. You can see here I'm firing my revolver. But yeah, I mean, Black Flag obviously got a lot of praises, when it first came out. You can hear I'm firing my revolver at a guy at the rooftops. But being able to revisit it with the really, really, really high fidelity that this engine is cranking out. Like I said, I was pretty impressed with it initially. I'm even more impressed with it, here on the second approach. So, any questions or comments, guys?
And you can, obviously, since you played on the two different systems, you can definitely see the difference, like yourself. I mean, obviously, it's going to be probably better fidelity and stuff.
Well, the graphical quality is about the same. I cranked it up a little from what I had on the 4070, maybe one level, right, for each of some of the incremental settings. But I already had it cranked up pretty high on the 4070 Super, and again because I was playing at a much lower frame rate. But here, I'm running at 2.5 times the frame rate that I was running at on the RTX 4070. So that's the main difference, is just how much everything is smoother. How much you can kind of feel and nail the timing a little better here, especially on the parries.
That was going to be my question, is what does that extra, basically over doubling your previous frame rate, in terms of, do you have to readjust your parry windows and your timing, or was it a pretty smooth, because it is so precise, it's much easier to do it because of the additional frames?
It was definitely an adjustment, right? Because you can see here, I've missed, several parries. Part of that is because the assassins who are coming in are way more skilled, right, than the people that you've been fighting up to this point. They're a little faster. But also here, I'm making the adjustment, right, because it feels like there's a little more time to kind of nail the parry when they're attacking. But here, everything feels like it's a little ramped up on steroids. And so the precision is there, but also everything's kind of coming at you a skosh bit faster as the combat here unfolds. All right, man. Anything else?
All right. No, I think it's nice to see it be able to take advantage of that hardware. And I think it speaks to as you were saying with the engine, right? It speaks to the quality of the engine they're using and the remaster, that it's able to push it to that degree for a game that's, its core is 13 years old. So, which originally was running at 30 frames per second.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said here in this discussion. We've had Halo Infinite, not Infinite, Halo Campaign Evolved come out, which took the same approach as their Skyrim and Oblivion remasters did, which is, they've taken Unreal Engine and they've kind of wrapped it around their older engines. And so the older engine source code is still what's running the game. It just has integration points to, so it takes its calculations and ports them out basically to Unreal. And then has the Unreal Engine render them. But those things are not as performant. I think there's instances of frame stutter. There are other problems with that engine on performance. Whereas, this is an example, and it's also with Capcom, right? When Capcom's going and doing their remasters, they are, entirely, not remasters, they're entirely remaking the game, right? In their new advanced engines in the RE engine. And the same here. So I think you are getting better results from a performance and an image quality perspective. All accounts are that, Halo Campaign Evolved looks good, but there are kind of nagging edges, right, in terms of its performance. So it's going to be interesting as more and more publishers kind of come into this era where, and it's kind of weird to me too, because like part of the reason of moving things to these engines, for instance, when Naughty Dog moved The Last of Us right onto a current technology base, the whole point of that was so that you have source code now staged on the new engine and you can extrapolate and expand from there. And right, any necessary learning curves, right, for new developers who are working on the projects. So it's I don't know at this stage with Halo, for instance, in Halo Studios, I don't know that they've gone through the entirety of the learning curve that's going to be necessary for them to actually build an entirely new Halo game on Unreal Engine. I don't think that they've entirely gone through that, which means they're going to have some learning curve debt and some tech debt to surmount whenever they go to do the next game. So it's interesting how people are taking the different approaches to this, and it's going to be interesting to see how it impacts their production pipelines, right, moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece in terms of what that does in terms of performance pipelines and the ability to hit things within a calendar time that they anticipate or that their publishing company announces. In Microsoft's case, where Halo Studios has certainly struggled with that in the last 2 iterations. So
DBQ, now you and I have both been revisiting the Gridiron. We have gone at that in different ways. So let's talk about your exposure to the pigskin this week.
Yeah, to go from 150 frames per second high res super performant to this very pixelated little game. So this is a game, Super Football Tactics Pro, SFTP. It is a game I saw on the Steam Next Fest over the summer. It's $8. It is by Sparkling Vinegar Studios. They've done a couple other mobile games over the years. Their most recent game came out last year, Super Cricket Fighter Turbo, which is out on mobile and now out on Steam as well. The game itself is, well, I put all that out there. I'll also say right now, well, as of sometime this afternoon when I looked, the game has 0 reviews on Steam. So it is relatively small and unknown. But its hook is kind of subversively simple, that it is checkers with a skin of football over the top of it. And so it ends up being you have your kind of traditional looking, the checkerboard layout, right? Checkers chess layout. And you're playing, here we go in the video here, you've got 10 pieces or 10 characters, 10 players, and you either have the ball and you're trying to get to the other end zone, or you are defending and you are trying to tackle the guy with the ball. And so just like checkers, you can only move diagonal, you can only attack diagonal. Your frontline people have shoulder pads on, which means they have to get tackled twice in order to be removed from the board. Then you've got, just like checkers, if you can't jump over somebody if they're, they need to have a space behind them diagonally to be able to jump over them. And also just like checkers, if you right there in the gameplay here, if you're watching the video, I get attacked and have to, move up another guy, but then that exposes me to get my other character taken by another player. So you can come up and block. I mean, it is checkers strategy. And there you can also do multiple jumps, just like you can do in checkers, and go over the top of multiple characters. As long as you can keep jumping and tackling people, you can keep going. You have kind of sidelines, which if you are the ball carrier and moving the ball carrier up the field, you can only stay on the sideline for a short period of time. And ultimately, and then so the other pieces here where it becomes a little more challenging is if a defender gets to the other end, just like in checkers, and you get kinged, and you have a piece that can move, a whole lot more. The defense, if they get all the way to the end, they can get kinged and have a player that can move diagonal as many spots as they want. If you have a tackle that you can take, you need to take it. And so like in this case here, my guy is 1 square away from scoring a touchdown, but I can't move him because I had to force the jumps and take out a character or take out a player. And so this was a relatively quick victory. And the next game, I totally got smoked. And it is, so you start off, you can do an arcade mode where it is simply just, one against the computer, pick a team and go. The teams don't necessarily seem to have too many special abilities or unique abilities. You can get special abilities as you go through the story mode, or in the arcade mode, you can choose. So you can enter a match and you have to choose your sponsors, how they frame it within the game. And sometimes that is you can rewind a move, or you can place tackling dummies on the field to block a path. And so to force the other player, the other character to go a certain direction. It has single screen co-op. Haven't looked to see if it has online co-op. I should double check that. But then you end up with league mode where you are kind of going through. It doesn't look like it has online co-op. It's got just local co-op. And so you're moving through the league. You start off in a bronze league, go through a tournament, and then you go to the silver and gold, and then there's one more after gold. Haven't got there yet. So the gameplay you saw was pretty much the first match of the Silver League, so the second kind of round of things. And you start by hiking the ball backwards, and then you can pass the ball forward, but only once during the game. And so you're kind of trying to find a spot where you have a clean line. You can only pass the ball straight as well. And so you can't necessarily do a diagonal. So I had to, in that case, I was able to get further down the field, pass the ball, and score. If I pass the ball and my guy with the ball gets tackled, I lose. And so if you come at it basically thinking it's checkers, you're going to be okay. But also the computer is hard enough that it's not simply just a walk in the park. Like the CPU here is sometimes screws up, but also sometimes definitely is playing multiple moves ahead as well. And so as I kind of breeze through the intro league, and now in the second league, I've had to replay a couple games multiple times in order to get past them. And sometimes it's getting a lucky move, and sometimes it is really thinking about the placement on the board in terms of if this character goes here and here, where are those possible moves? I mean, it's the reason checkers has lasted for centuries as a game, is that it's relatively simple, but there's still strategy involved with it. And so, Super Football Tactics Pro is a quick little game. The matches only take 10 minutes at the most. There's actually a timer, and in one of as you go up through it, you get kind of modifiers where the clock, you have to finish the game in a certain amount of time or things like that. So I'm really kind of enjoying it. I haven't tried it on Steam Deck yet, but it's a quick kind of pick up and play, but it is also very much one more turn where I get beat and I can see what I did wrong, right? Like just like when you play chess, like, oh yeah, well, if I didn't do that move, I could see where I created an opening. and you've got that that incentive to kind of come back and do it again. It's $8. It's on sale right now. It just launched this week, or it launched last week. The beginning. Well, no, I thought it was only last week, but no, it looks like it came out in June, which is why I thought it was only a relative new release, given that it has 0 reviews. But yeah, so it's been out since June. It's on sale for $6.50 right now. So it was a really easy pickup, and I've gotten some play out of it, and definitely going to get some more play out of it.
Now, do the individual players on the team have stats? So is there anything like that? It's just all based on tactics and movement on your end?
Yep. Yeah. And I haven't seen it, right? I mean, that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen later on, but I think it is very much a piece is a piece is a piece. And the only difference is like the kings or the players with shoulder pads on that can take 2 hits or 2, kind of jumps before they actually get removed from the board. So in some ways that makes it easier, because then it's not makes it easier. It makes it easier to approach, right? Not necessarily easier to play, but it also means that it's not like a Fire Emblem where you're trying to balance a weapon triangle type of thing, or a Pokemon where you're trying to make sure you have the right balance of different characters on the board. That it keeps it relatively simple, but also means that every character has the same ability to be successful or to totally screw it up based on how you play.
And are there levels to the AI? So can you like face a more challenging opponent, or does the game kind of level on your own as you go through each round?
If you're going through the league, the AI scales up. You can set some difficulty in the tutorial pieces in the menus. And I just was digging around. It does have online competitive play. I mean, it has online play as well, so you can play against somebody online. So no, it is. I think it'll be interesting as I keep going to see where that kind of threshold is in terms of. So far, it hasn't felt like the AI is cheap, and in some ways, because of the fact that it's just checkers, you can't really do anything that feels real cheap because you only have a certain limited move set, and so it doesn't have that ability to kind of suddenly drop a overpowered character in the field like in a tactics game.
Now, you've compared it to checkers a couple times, but the description to me sounds more like chess. Is that accurate?
I think it plays like checkers because of the diagonal movement. The reason it feels like chess is that there's a little more strategy to it, but it doesn't play like chess in terms of like each character has a different kind of move set, right? There's no knight that's going one way. There's no rook that's going another place. You can only go diagonal. And so that's where it still really is checkers, but it feels more strategic than just picking up checkers. And maybe that's most of the time because when I've picked up checkers, I've played against kids. And so there's not necessarily the same level of strategy. But I think because you have like characters that can take 2 hits or special abilities that can drop a tackling dummy on the field, that it does create a little bit of more strategic gameplay.
So, like checkers, then can you only move forward or up or down depending on what side you're on? Okay, unless you're kicking around or whatever it's called here.
Right, but you can move back, and so this is where the football piece comes in. Is that if you are like, depending on how far you've progressed your people, you kind of have a line of scrimmage, and so if you have a character that's past this line of scrimmage, you can move backwards. But there's been times when my line of scrimmage is like when I'm getting pushed down by the defense or by the opponent, I've wanted to go back to defend a guy that's going to get tackled. But my line has been shrunken because they've pushed down in that, like, it's almost like a area of control in a strategy game, right? As you move more characters into a certain field, they've owned that space. And so I can't go backwards in a space that if I am pushed back in that case. So there's definitely times when you do go back. There's lots of times you do go back if you're kind of being aggressive and have pushed the defense. You can move back and forth a lot easier. But if you're on your heels, it makes it harder to kind of go back and play defense as well. So it's kind of an odd mix, right? I think I'm watching your faces as I describe this, right? Like it's simplistic, but it is surprisingly, it's deeper than I thought it was. And the demo that's there does a nice job of kind of tutorializing you, but also for the price of a hamburger and a soda, it was pretty easy to jump in and say yes to.
Yeah, and my facial expressions are not negative. It's just I think this is cool. I was listening to Rebel FM today and listening to Anthony Gallegos talk about how he's playing Mini Motor Storm, I think, or Mini Motor. I can't remember what it's called, but like it's the game in the series by the devs who have done like Mini Motor City or whatever and Mini Metro.
Oh yeah,
where, and that game is patterned off of kind of the old mobile game air traffic control, where you used to take your fingers and like draw the route that you wanted the airplanes to take. Yep. So I mean, I think these are definitely great games. They are definitely time consumers. They definitely get deeper and deeper in strategy. There's kind of a roguelite element to them. So no, I like it's funny and interesting because I spent some time this morning doing some very deep look at NBA 2K27 and some of the new features that are coming out. And it's I think people have this impression that like to a current battle that I am engaged in, kind of as a joke, is this whole notion of the ball and gun gamer. And I think a lot of people feel that like a lot of these like sports as a genre is kind of shallow and but there's a incredibly wide breadth and array of stuff in individual games in the big AAA titles, but also in these shards. And you presented a lot of them here in the last few months, between basketball and
the deck builder football game. There's lots of ways to adapt the gameplay of a full professional sport into lots of strategic pieces.
Yeah, and Tao playing the 3-on-3 online soccer, right? So there's a lot of stuff for people. Tao, any more comments or questions? Okay, let us move on to segment 2 and start running down the news. So the first news story is over on Eurogamer. I thought this was by Sophie McAvoy. I can't tell when I put this in reader mode. It sometimes eliminates. Now I gotta take it out of reader mode because it looks like it's missing part of the story.
It's by Vicky Blake.
Vicky Blake, yeah. So the Blood of Dawnwalker's console modes top out at 40 frames per second with no 60 frame per second option at launch. New console gameplay from developer Rebel Wolves and publisher Bandai Namco has confirmed the Blood of Dawnwalker won't offer a 60 frame per second mode on PS5 or Xbox Series X or S when it launches next month. 2 graphic modes are planned across both consoles, a quality mode targeting 30 frames per second at dynamic 4K, and a balanced mode targeting 40 frames per second at dynamic 4K. PS5 Pro will hit the same frame rates and resolution, but with what's being described as enhanced visual quality across both modes. So it's kind of interesting and very, very timely because this is a title that I have been allowing myself to get more and more interested in. I'm not the most hardcore of hardcore vampire people. There are some really, really super deep, super weird vampire people, but it is a mythology and a lore that I have always been strongly engaged in. Buffy the Vampire Slayer was one of my favorite television series, and with the box DVD set, I watched it more than one time. The companion series Angel was also one of my biggest favorite shows, and I like literally like once a year I would sit down and watch like all 5 seasons, binge watch all 5 seasons in a row. I am super particular about my vampire lore, and there are elements of like takes on vampire lore and mythology that I like and ones that I don't. Was not a fan of Redfall's approach to it. Like, regardless of what the quality of the game was, I was disinterested from the get because I didn't like what I was being shown from a vampire perspective, vampire lore perspective. This is one where I was interested, but I felt like it was trading too closely on the notion of Blade and just kind of throwing it back like into like the 16 and 1700s. But I've warmed up to the notion of this game, and it was solidly on my radar as a potential pickup.
That sounds like a lot of past tense there.
Correct. This is like this does not warm me to like this notion of the philosophical embroilment that has taken place on social media over the last few years, that like 30 frames per second isn't a big deal. It is a big deal. It's like you're paying $500, north of $500 now for a console to play games at 4K. I just talked about how I'm on a PC and it's cranking out 250 frames per second on Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced at 4K, with ray tracing on and maxed out. Like it is a structural change to then shift right to playing a game at 30 frames per second at 4K without all of the image quality fidelity, right, that you would get on PC. So fortunately PC is still an option for this game, and so but I'm also going to be very interested and will be monitoring very closely and heavily how this game sticks to the landing in terms of performance. I think this is a game where the developers will eventually figure it out. But the weakening of the knees is here at launch, right? This creates the premise of a game that I am probably very likely to be very cautious and give a lot of side eye to, and wait to see how it lands, to see where everything goes. Now, that all being said, this is not me throwing shade at the studio. Right, the studio is trying to. I mean, this is a very ambitious game. It's a gorgeous looking game from an image quality and artistic perspective. But they were obviously presented a challenge in hardware optimization that they couldn't surmount before launch. And while I wish them the best and I hope for the best, and I'm hoping that this game eventually kind of, walks the dog and is something that I am able to onboard to, I can't make that commitment, right, just out of, just out of charity right here at the launch. It's an incredibly busy holiday season. When we get to the end of the show and we talk about significant releases this week, there are 7 or 8 like significant releases hitting the landscape in the span of 1 calendar week, and the market catches heat right from here forward. So this is, I mean, what I will say, the positive thing that I will say of this, most of all, bravo to this team from developers for coming clean and just putting it on Front Street that this is what's going on. There are so many developers that would try and keep this close to the vest, would kind of, shuck and jive and like dodge the question. So I'm really impressed by, them putting this out there. I'm hoping it sticks the landing on PC. I will have a stick in my craw, but like if the game is hitting 60 frames per second at 4K on PC, I will likely go ahead and take the risk out of charity, right, to go ahead and plunk down for this game. If it's also then a good game, right, with hopes that with patches and optimization going forward, that they're able to pull it together. DBQ Tao, were either of you kind of salivating over this game and had your eyes on it?
No, I will say just from the get-go, no. Not that, just in terms of the genre and, but I think that doesn't mean that I am interested to see what they do, right? This is former CD Red people and some other studios. And so coming out, being a little more independent, I can see why they are, being realistic about what they can hit with the by the time that they launch, in order to keep a launch, as we were just talking about Halo Studios and not making launches, trying to hit 4K and 60 frames per second with Infinite back in 2021. So I think given that it is CD Red type of people, this game is not going to sit on a shelf once it's released. They're going to definitely keep working on it. Looking over at Digital Trends, they have the final system requirements for it on PC, and it does hit 60 frames per second. It depends on what you're running, right? And so they kind of break it down. If you're running 1080p and a Intel i7 and a Ryzen 7, running a GeForce 2060 Super or Radeon 5700 or above, you'll hit 60 frames at 1080p. If you want to get 4K, you're looking at needing a GeForce 470 Ti and a Radeon 970 or 9070. Yep, that's the. So it does look like on PC, they've given players the options, and it has the fact that it has the capacity to hit those targets. Well, I guess that's the question: are they targets or are they locked? Right? That it wouldn't surprise me that eventually that they'll be able to get there on the PlayStation Pro at least, but given that they're not a huge studio, I could see that they prioritized PC development because, I don't know, more comfortability, more flexibility than dealing with the closed systems of the consoles.
Yeah, the only thing that gives me pause, and again, keeps me in the mode of it's not me shifting, right? Puts me in the mode of I'm going to be watching this very carefully with side eye, right, and making sure it sticks to landing. Is this final system requirements with DLSS, FSR, XeSS technology enabled, right? So these are performance targets, provided you are running upscaling. So that makes me a little worried. Again, I always run with upscaling, so that's fine. But how is that going to work for everyone else? There are people who don't run upscaling for whatever reason. But more importantly, right, what it does is it kind of firmly puts it also in, you got to be on, I'm trying to see what's the oldest card, right? So it's kind of weird. They say GTX 1060 here. Well, then you're going to get 30 frames per second, so it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have access to upscaling, and it doesn't matter because you're only getting 30 frames per second. So,
No, thanks for pointing that out, because that's a key factor in this chart and the qualifications here.
Yeah, Tao, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I was actually looking forward to this one, but I was going to buy it on PC anyways. So, and I think I probably said it before. I'm not like a huge graphics guy, obviously, since some of the systems I've played on over the years. But yeah, it wasn't going to really make a difference for me either way. So since I was going to buy it on PC, but yeah, I mean, it looks really good. I'm pretty stoked about this, and it's an open world game, so I always tend to jump into those. So I'll definitely probably get into this one when it comes out.
Yeah, I did want to give a shout out to everybody who's jumped into the chat. Thanks so much for coming through. Hero Down Under, Borbor Country, Ramon Terrell, Warawana. And I suspect there are others out there as well. So a couple comments have brought this up, have been brought up on this regard. Bloodwalker also available on Good Old Games. Warawana mentions, I guess Warawana, your wife has it pre-ordered on console. A few comments in here that people are planning on playing it on PC. Warawana's concerns about UE5, RTGI, and just ray tracing, specular being taxing on hardware. Warawana also echoes respect to Rebel Wolves for clarifying no 60 frames per second mode on consoles, even if it is unfortunate news. Totally agree on that. Okay, let's go on and move on to the second news story. Tao to talk a little bit about Call of Duty.
Yeah, so we got a little Call of Duty news here. So we're going to get Modern Warfare on the Switch 2. That was obviously announced earlier this year after the Microsoft 10-year Nintendo deal. But the port seems to be a disappointment of sorts to early testers. Back in February, Microsoft, obviously, and Nintendo signed a 10-year binding deal to bring Activision's Call of Duty to Nintendo platforms, contingent on Microsoft's successful completing of its acquisition of the publisher, which obviously they have done. We hadn't seen any Call of Duty. I mean, that was only 2 years ago. I didn't think they were going to put anything on there right away. Maybe a port of like one of the older ones, but even that, I was kind of always skeptical of them might actually doing. But this year's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 will be coming to the Switch 2. There was a beta live on PC and Xbox, PlayStation systems. Not on the Switch. I think the Switch is getting one this coming weekend, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's like a week behind. So it's like I think it starts on the 28th of August.
Yeah. But a few content creators had early access Spawn Wave and Nintendo World Report. Were able to get hands-on with the version of Nintendo's console and shared footage and impressions of the public beta. And some of their comments, as we kind of scroll down here, both impressions agree on the core trade-off that Sledgehammer and BNax, and actually not on this article, but there's another article, I guess, Digital Legends was helping to with the support to the Switch 2. Had made with the Switch 2 build of Call of Duty 4. Frame rate was clearly a prioritization over resolution. The game reportedly targets 60 frames, mostly for 60 frames per second in dock mode, though it does dip during busier moments, such as when there's several players clustered in tight spaces. Now, I watched a little bit, like a few minutes here and there of the footage. I didn't think it was like all that bad. I don't know if you, Game Logic, got to review any of that footage, and if you had any impressions, kind of just early on. Of
the Switch 2 version?
Yeah.
No. And I'm going to make a comment. I don't mean the comment as snarky as it sounds here. Like, I was the host this week, so I did concur with this news story being in the rundown. I have zero interest or concern or anything about the Switch 2 version. It is a super wackadoodle risk. So yeah, I'm sorry. Please proceed now.
No, that's right, because I had asked you the questions. Both impressions described heavy artifacting, particularly around character models, weapons, and buildings. We're seeing noticeably when panning the camera or sprinting. John Reardon, I believe is his name,
John
of Nintendo World
Reardon.
of Nintendo World Report said an Activision representative confirmed that the beta's official Discord that the Switch 2 version uses the console's integrated DLSS implementation, adding, "I've never seen a DLSS implementation that looks this bad." So definitely a visual downgrade. Just some more comments on the creators. Found the experience somehow improved in handheld mode, where the smaller screen made the resolution shortfall far less noticeable. At least one reported that the frame rate felt smoother there as well, though it's unclear whether that's due to the Switch 2's display's variable refresh rate support. So there is no, and it's not in this article, but I know they said there's no keyboard or mouse support, but you can use the Joy-Cons in mouse mode for this game. So, which they did seem, the few comments I saw actually said it was actually pretty good in this game. And in this article too, I believe they said it was actually really, really quite good. The Joy-Con mouse controls. I've tried the Joy-Con mouse controls, I think on Fortnite one time, and I was like, no, only because of the button placements. Like I just couldn't. And I guess if obviously if you played more like that, it would probably come like second nature to you. But just from having a regular controller or even just like a mouse and keyboard, it's just like there's no way I even have time to try to play around with the mouse controls like this. But
it's a recipe for hand cramping. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You would need one of those like mouse kind of like bases or whatever to kind of fit the Joy-Con into or something, because it's just the thing is way too small. Although I do have that kind of grip on there now, so maybe it's not too bad. I haven't tried it with that on there, so who knows? Maybe I'll try it with there. But going on, they described the feeling as really quite good for the mouse controls. I'm just trying to jump down here. There's another comment. They also got to play or at least Nintendo World Report got to play the single player campaign. I think there's just like one mission that you can do. I think that's in the regular console and PC beta also. And performance was notably worse with a regular traversal stutters, compounding their already low resolution and larger AI heavy levels. So doesn't seem like it's particularly glowing reviews, at least right now, at least for this beta test. So, but I was actually kind of interested, just out of pure, technological, curiosity to pick up the Switch 2 version. I know, Game Master, you said you're probably not going to do that, but I might give it a try. Just to say, what the heck, give it a try, and we can compare notes going forward once we both are able to play the game. But yeah, something that I was always interested in. I think the last game was on the Wii U. I think it was Ghosts was the last one that was on a Nintendo system. So it's been quite a while. I don't remember if I ever bought that one for the Wii U. Probably not, because I got a Wii U pretty late in the cycle. So it's just interesting now that they're actually going through with this. And I know they said 10 years. Well, I mean, 10 years is, there's already almost 3 years up now. So it should go. Maybe they'll get another couple of games, and then we'll see what happens after that. And I think if I remember, even before the Ghost edition, they used to do like Call of Duties, I think, like for every system, right? Game Logic, like it was like a different Call of Duty. It wasn't like just the same one, just kind of plastered through all the systems. I wonder if they'd ever think about doing that again. That'd be kind of interesting. So, but I don't know if you guys had any thoughts.
Go ahead, Game Logic, and then I'll say.
I mean, before COD went mainstream and really became PvP, yeah, like PS1, PS2 era, Dreamcast, OG Xbox, yeah, like every Call of Duty that went to console was different than like the PC version. And each version, like on the console, was like slightly different. So you're kind of talking about like an old time like Mortal Kombat situation where each version that goes to a console is slightly different. Since they have gone like mainstream and primarily focused around PvP, they've all been essentially the same game.
So yeah, I think you'd have to go back to like the Wii era where they were putting out Call of Duty on the DS with touchscreen controls and the Wii with motion controls, and then which was, it still had the same name and more or less the same campaign, but then the functionality and robustness were much more limited to what was on PC and the kind of current gen type of Xbox, PlayStation consoles at those times.
Yeah, and even there were even sometimes a name difference, right, in the titling, because they were individual. Like the Call of Duty that came out on like PlayStation 2 was like a different title than like.
Yes, yeah. If you're back in the PlayStation 2 era, even into like the beginning of the 360, where you've got the Call of Duty at launch was not Call of Duty 2. Right, like, yeah, you definitely, the same was true with, Medal of Honor. There we go. The EA precursor to Call of Duty. Yeah, that you had multiple different, that franchise had lots of different games. But yeah, in the last 15 years, they've pretty much all been, pretty close. Because I think, Modern Warfare 3 was probably the last Call of Duty on Wii. But again, I think it'll be interesting to see how this sells. So what this does, I think it is, to Tao's point of giving it a try, I think given what we know about the prices of consoles, like I would think people entering the console market are going to be, the number of people in the console market that have multiple systems is probably going to be fewer and fewer. And so for people that have been in the infrastructure and in this marketplace, yeah, this is not the Call of Duty you're probably going to play primarily. But if you are a new player or a kid with only the Switch, because that's what the Switch 2, then potentially this is your onboarding into it. It'll be interesting to see. I doubt it's going to sell well, just because third parties on Nintendo platforms have struggled in the last decade and two. So, but this is the first time it's been here in that long as well.
I have a host of disagreements with you, DBQ.
Excellent. This is why we talk about it. I'm glad you're disagreeing. That's good. So now I'm curious, what part of my rosy positive picture are you disagreeing with?
So first of all, on the topic, shout out to Hero, who played the Call of Duty Modern Warfare beta campaign and enjoyed it. So good on you, DBQ. So yes, some third-party games have struggled on Nintendo. Some other third-party games, when they have done impressive third-party ports, have done well on Nintendo. And in general, when it's been a multi-system port, then getting it onto the Switch 2, right, tends to bump their numbers in aggregate, and put them in a good place. And yes, there's a large part of that theory about like I've talked at length on the Games Memo about how, hey, we're entering this era where, the people who made fun of the Nintendo Switch 2 for charging $449 and now $499, lo and behold, is now the cheapest console on the market, and stands in a very good position to benefit, right, as things become more constrained and people look for less expensive options. I think the sales numbers are going to be strengthened with the Nintendo Switch 2. However, I'm not certain that people onboard into Call of Duty on this platform this way, when I think that there are other better performing options on Switch 2 from everything that I'm seeing here. Now, granted, it's pre-release, but let's run the tally sheet of the weird that is going on here. No offense, but you've got Sledgehammer on this one. And like in most recent years, I'm sorry, and I love Sledgehammer. I love WW2 Call of Duty. I think that's one of the best campaigns that I've ever played. But Sledgehammer is clearly more and more over the last 5-6 years, clearly the number 3 studio out of that bunch, right? They are solid B- team, maybe slipping towards C, to the point where they haven't even been in the rotation for the last 4 years.
I think that's the key part. Yeah, I think that's a very good part. That it has not even been, they've been more of a support studio than they've been a third, the third wheel that eventually gets kicked to the curb.
And what I can't tell in the description of kind of what's going on here, so over the years, what is not spoken loudly enough is how the center of gravity of the Call of Duty franchise has really become Raven. Raven does Warzone, and tons, like the core game is Warzone. I mean, all of the technology that builds Warzone, that is the central package. Everything else is a pack on, right, around that core. And basically, the tea leaves that I think that I've been interpreting over the last few years is that you can have whatever kind of ego you want as a lead team, but like Raven doesn't get pushed around, right? Because they do Warzone, and Warzone is what makes Call of Duty money. So as far as I can tell, I don't know or believe that Raven is being bothered to help with the Switch 2 version. So you've got Sledgehammer.
Is Warzone coming to the Switch 2?
That's what I was about to ask. Yeah,
I'm gonna say that I believe it is, because the whole thing about the 10-year deal was that it had to be delivered at parity.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and so this is where I think less about this year's iteration of Call of Duty, and that the valuable part of a Switch 2 port is it's an onboarding ramp for Warzone, which is free to play. And yes, Warwana, I cannot even imagine what those frame rates would look like, and if it's going to be complete crossplay or if it's going to be sectioned off. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, in Warzone, the key thing about Warzone is it's a snipe fest, right? You have people, sitting in towers like hundreds of meters out, and like everything that I'm reading here is going to make that tough. Here's the big thing that really super concerns me is the frame rates that you are getting on this thing are with DLSS. Guess what most PvP competitive multiplayer people don't use? DLSS. I have it turned off. Most of the conventional wisdom is to not use it. Now, that theory, that opinion has gotten a little more mixed, I would say, over the last year. But in general, most of your competitive PvP, hardcore, dyed-in-the-wool people don't turn upscaling on. Because first of all, it messes with image quality. It makes it sometimes, right, because you're getting fake frames in there, right? Things sometimes aren't as sharp or as crisp, and they would actually rather have lower resolution but crisper image quality, particularly like and then when you talk about Call of Duty, more and more over the last few years, the big problem with Call of Duty has been in like picking out targets, right, against the background. This is something that you apparently cannot do on the Switch 2 version. So
let me just say, in Warzone, because haven't played that, there's so much crap on the screen in Warzone, which obviously there's no way they could do that on the Switch 2, and yet it is coming to Switch 2. I'm just looking on their support site, so Warzone is coming to Switch 2, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays. But yeah, there's so much stuff like in a regular, like in the PC version, just like papers and just crap flying all around. It's amazing that you can pick out anything at any time. So
yeah, so I mean, this is the entire and this is. And I'm ranting a little bit here because I go back to how this whole thing started. And I commented at the time that during the merger, executives who were not hands-on keyboard people were making promises, right? Top Gun, writing checks your body can't cash, making promises that, and remember the whole era of like the McDonald's value meal 10-year deals that were being signed all over the place, with zero regard, like, and because it had to be true, because they couldn't have been having those discussions. No technical discussion on like what it was going to take to like get Call of Duty on these other platforms. So it was a wonky premise to begin. It just like, and here we see it, landing. What's incredible to me is the campaign is running worse than the multiplayer does. Like, this was my personal feeling while this was going on. Like, I could have seen making a promise to put it on Nintendo, on a Nintendo platform, and only give them the single player campaign. That would make sense to me. But to put people on Switch 2 and put them on multiplayer, which, like, I don't know. Like, it's saying in here that they don't know if they're going to leave crossplay enabled. I'm like, so if you don't have crossplay and those people are just playing with other Switch players, what does that do? Like, you're expending money, right, in DevOps and SRE people maintaining this game and maintaining the servers to only give it to the Switch population, which currently today has the lowest population of console units deployed. I mean, it'll probably catch Xbox right here in relatively short order, unfortunately. But that's what you're deploying, and that's what your OpEx spend is on. There's just all types of things in here that just don't make financial sense, don't make technical sense. And then I'm like, in this era of Asha Sharma, like, is she going to be putting skin in the game to maintain this thing and keep it going forward when it doesn't? Like, again, it just does not make sheer financial sense at scale. Now, if it becomes the other Fortnite machine, right? Because Fortnite has definitely advantaged itself from being on Switch. It doesn't sound, I mean, from everything that I've read about Fortnite, and Tal, you would know. I mean, I'm hoping you get a chance to play the beta this weekend, because I know you've played Fortnite on Switch and to run that comparison. But this just seems like a bonga premise to me, and it's in its entirety now that I'm kind of seeing the technical information coming back.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna try to get into it this coming weekend just to see how it runs. But yeah, and just going back to the partner I was talking about before, Digital Legends. They worked on the Call of Duty. Well, they've worked on the main Call of Duty series 6, 7, and obviously this newest one. But they also worked on Warzone mobile back in 2024, and I think that's done now, right? That's closed, or it's shuttered, the mobile version. But so maybe, maybe they can get it to work.
there's still Call of Duty Mobile, but the
Just not
Warzone, the thing that quite frankly never made sense in the first place, it's been shuttered.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they can get it working. I don't know. It's just gonna be interesting to see for sure. So yeah, like I said, I'll try to check it out next week and report back.
Yeah. Go ahead, keep going.
Yep.
Now, did you have anything else on this one?
Not on this one, no. But I got the next two also, so I can just jump into those.
Yeah, go right ahead.
If you're ready. All right. Yeah, so next couple news stories here. A couple of studios that have broken away from Xbox. So Compulsion Games is officially separates from Xbox. The team told me, and this is coming from, well, I'll just read through the article. Compulsion Games is now independent from Xbox, with management acquiring both the studio and its staff. I did this deal for the team first and foremost. CEO Guillermo, I don't know how to say that name, Provost, told Gamers Beat, I asked the team, do you want to stay together? The team told me we would rather eat rocks and drink gasoline than split up. Provost declined to disclose the current staff count. GamerBeat reports that some employees left after they were warned of possible closure before Xbox announced it would be spun out the studio as a platform holder, laid off 20% of the staff. Everything was relative compared to all of us losing our jobs on July 6th. This is a pretty good deal. I would say the exit was gracious on Microsoft's part. Moments like and then he kind of is just going on. I'm trying to jump back down to their games. Compulsion Games has regained ownership of its IP, which includes 2013's Contrast, which I don't remember that game. 2018's We Happy Few, and 2025 South of Midnight, which I never did get to finish before my Game Pass ran out. But the publishing rights are also transferring back to Compulsion. Provost clarified it's just that there's transition period where that happens with different platform holders, but the game is supporting the studio as a result of that change. So they're on their own again. They are looking for, I guess, future funding opportunities as they move forward. So as they say in this article, but it's good that they were able to kind of break away, kind of a clean break basically, and they were able to, more importantly, I think, being able to keep their IPs. So I think actually South of Midnight just came out for the Switch, Steam, I believe, right? Or Steam. No, okay.
Steam. I know it's on Steam. It's been for the past couple of weeks.
Okay. Maybe it's coming out for Switch at some point, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, I thought it had come out for Switch too, but I'm not sure. We can look that up.
Yeah.
I'll look it up while you guys go to the next.
Okay, yep, thanks. And then the second article, Double Fine returns to Kickstarter post Xbox announced a new game jam. In case you missed the news, Tim Schafer's studio Double Fine recently regained its independence after Xbox announced major reset. The Psychonauts developer isn't wasting any time moving forward. The studio this week announced its jump this week, but actually last week, back into small game development with another Amnesia Fortnite event powered and funded by a new Kickstarter campaign. If you haven't already seen Double Fine's documentary series, Amnesia Fortnite, is an event where the team drops everything they're currently working on for a short time, breaks off into small teams, and then makes fun, bite-sized projects. And this is obviously being funded through Kickstarter. So basically, they kind of pitch a bunch of different projects, and then you pick one, or the people pick one through Kickstarter, and then that game will actually be created into a full game later on. So good for them. Also, they also retained rights to all their games, all their IPs, since the split. So that's cool. I'm glad I think that was probably the best thing in these articles is that they're able to retain all their IPs and then getting stripped away or like parts of it. I know sometimes that happens with different studios where they can keep the name or something, but all the assets are the original, whoever they were splitting from. So it's nice to see them getting it to keep everything.
Yeah, I agree. It's good. The game jams that Double Fine has done has created some really interesting things over the years. I think that's where you got the Toy Soldiers and some of their tower defense games. Kiln came out of a game jam. So, and just as a follow-up, South of Midnight came out on Switch 2 the end of March. So back when they were still a Microsoft studio.
Yeah, I do want to do one loop back, just because of one comment that was made. Or what I mentioned, have you tried Fortnite on Switch 1? It's misery, in my opinion. LOL. The one thing I'll say, and this is going back to the Call of Duty, right, and hashing like how this thing is going to play out. The difference with Fortnite on Switch 1 is that you are, unless they've changed it, as far as I understood, you are match made with mobile players. So the mobile players and the Switch people are in a pool. And then everybody, and then PC, right, big boy consoles, right, get match made. And so this goes back to like, what is going to be the plan with Call of Duty if this thing only goes to Switch 2? Real Nate says that they did change it. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, well, there you go. I think, and Tal, you can tell me if you're wrong. It's no longer separate. I think given the way Fortnite plays out in the different modes that you have, competitive modes that you have available, I still see in my mind Fortnite being a more viable competitive multiplayer experience, even for people on Switch 2, than you're going to wind up getting on Call of Duty. Especially tonight, like we're going to talk about Call of Duty a little later on tonight, but like especially on something like hardcore mode, right, where it's like one shot, two shots, right, and there is no TTK, like I would strongly suggest if you're on Switch 2, you probably don't go into hardcore, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say for Fortnite, I mean, obviously it's different because the gameplay is different for the most part. I mean, obviously there's no builds mode in Fortnite where it's just pure shooting, but even in that mode, you still have all the different power-ups and little tech stuff that you can pick up and, get away from, or, help yourself. There's shield bubbles and all other kinds of things you can do. And, Call of Duty is straight up just shooting, yeah, there's some, special things that you can do in there, but it's more, like you get, the different kill streaks and stuff like that, which is, it's still just pure shooting, basically, more or less. So yeah, it's going to be quite the spectacle if the Switch 2 players are also in with everybody else. I would have to say they would have to keep them with the consoles, but I don't know if that's even possible. Obviously, since the other consoles, I think, were just get thrown in with the PC pool too. So I'm assuming everybody's going to be with everybody. So
yeah, I think to me, I think there's two choices. You either keep all the Switch 2 players together and don't do crossplay. Or you wind up having a crossplay, right? Open crossplay up to everybody. On Switch 2, right? Crossplay is just a bit, right? It's either on or it's off.
Yeah.
You either just play with Switch players, or if they do enable crossplay, then when they do when the player enables it, it's crossplay to everybody.
Just the benefit of the chat here. Thanks, Real Nate, for clarifying that yes, it is. Fortnite is no longer separate, as Game Logic was talking about. Okay. Well, let's go on to the next news story. One of the big ones of the week, or at least as it's still in development, and that is the leaks coming out from the entity or group known as CyberLeak, which has seems to have a playable build or a full build of Grand Theft Auto 6, and has been posting a variety of gameplay over the past couple of days. It started the middle of the week last week. Has been going on so much, in fact, that the CyberLeak entity is doing player polls of what to find out where players want to go. But this news story coming from Game Developer is that, no surprise, Take-Two is very aggressively trying to track down who this gamer group, this hacking group of CyberLeak is. And so they've subpoenaed information from Microsoft and Discord in order to try to track it down. So far, they still remain at large. CyberLeak has posted kind of a manifesto in terms of going after companies where, basically saying that companies release unfinished games or DLC that's on a disc, or a variety, shut down live services. And so they're kind of, one of their platforms is making games free, and or making them full and available. So it's been interesting. This was all coming a week ahead of Netflix's big Take-Two Grand Theft Auto trailer, or not trailer, but gameplay preview that was going to happen. It's still planning to happen, but this has started to take some wins out of the marketing of Take-Two.
I mean, so let me ask you a question. Are either one of you guys planning on buying GTA 6?
I was not on console. I was probably just going to wait till whenever the inevitable, the PC version ever, assuming it comes out at some point, which I would think it would, since the other ones have. But yeah, not on console.
Yeah, I'm curious, but it is not a week one purchase for me.
Okay, but it sounds like both of you, you're in the pool of interest, right?
Yes.
Have either one of you gone to look at the leaks?
No,
I did.
Okay,
and they're super small clips, and it's just like, okay, it's Grand Theft Auto. I mean, if you played one, I mean, you definitely have played them all. It's nothing different other than obviously the graphics being super better. And the clips that I saw were just like I said, they're just normal. The guy's walking down the street or something, and bumps into a person, starts fighting them or something like that. Something that always happens in Grand Theft Auto. So nothing that I saw was like a story beat or anything like that I could tell.
Okay, and seeing the leaks has had no impact on your interest in the game.
No, well, like I said, for me, it's going to be PC, and that's probably, like I said, it's going to be at least a year out, if not more. So it doesn't really. I'll get it when, like I said, I'll get it when I get it.
So, I appreciate your defense counsel type of questions here, Game Logic.
so by the time you do get the game, if you wanted to see what the game actually looked like, you would have ample opportunity to have been exposed to what it looks like on console. So it's the same question to the chat. Is there anybody who's interested in getting GTA 6? And if you are interested in getting it, have you gone to look at the leaks? And if you have gone to look at the leaks, has it impacted in any way whatsoever your interest level in the game? Has it caused you to pull your pre-order? Or are you planning on not watching the Netflix marketing drumbeat because of what's in the leaks? I'm going to just preempt this whole thing by saying probably not. And I'm going to be a little more aggressive maybe than I usually am about being critical about things. This is stupid. Idiotic. Like the belief that this is in any way going to derail or impact Take-Two as a corporation with the plans for GTA, as if this is going to impact the uptake of that preliminary view on Netflix or anything else that goes on with GTA. This is idiotic. And here's the big problem, super huge problem that I have with it. The people who are negatively impacted, Strauss Zelnick is not losing any sleep over this. I assure you he is still sipping a scotch at night and waking up in the morning, working out in his home gym and figuring out what he needs to say at a meeting with his legal people, right, when he finally decides to roll into work, like at 10:30 or 11 o'clock, right? The people who this is making miserable are the developers who worked for a decade to get this game ready to go, who are still under crunch to get the game out on time, and the marketing team, who now have to, right, because what's going on at Take-Two right now is everything is being locked down. Everybody is suspect. Everybody's movements and handling of sensitive information, company proprietary information, is under laser discernment. So this hasn't impacted Take-Two one iota, right? Other than mounting up their legal team, which like again, that's not causing anybody to lose. That's a phone call, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you got a bunch of extra lawyers now getting paid, right, for the outsourcing support that they're going to. Like, the people you are harming are the people who are actually trying to get a video game to people for them to enjoy during the holiday season. I can't describe the level of depravity and immorality, right, concerning this. I get it. You have a problem with the way companies are doing things. As I've said very strenuously for the last few weeks, companies have one relation with buyers have one relation with suppliers. Suppliers put products on offer on the market, buyers decide to buy it or not. You don't like how somebody is behaving, don't buy it. Period. That's your way of setting a signal. And if in your stupidity, you can't understand and you can't recognize that when you have a problem with something, but 5 million of your fellow consumers don't have a problem with something, that just because you're very loud about it and they're not, doesn't put you in the majority. That just means that you're a super vocal minority. And if what you're saying is opposite of what the market is doing, as tons of things have played out to be the case over the last few years, exclusives are going away. Exclusives don't matter. It's super really funny that the multi-billion-dollar company PlayStation, right, Sony, is deciding to not put their exclusives on PC. Exclusives don't matter. Like they need to be free. They need to be everywhere. Super funny that now Xbox is talking about how they need to do exclusives. Right? You being loud and opinionated doesn't make you right. What makes people right and what justifies what companies do is how the market responds. So, I mean, I hope this Robin Hooding, Deathstroking, Deadpooling, mercenary for hire kind of foolishness that's going on. And I mean, I don't like. I've been on a fence with some of the stuff that Anonymous does. Like 92% of it, I don't agree with. There's been like 8% of it that I've been like, oh, okay, maybe that was deserved. But in general, I think well-adjusted adults just decide to buy the thing or not buy the thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think that's okay. You had your soapbox. That's good. No, I don't know that I have anything more to add. I think it is that's a good way to frame it in terms of who this really impacts. Like this is a lot of, it's another week's worth of news cycle press for the publisher, which isn't necessarily going to be a bad thing in the long run. But it is certainly impacting those that have spent time on the game or that are in the, in 2K's, in the marketing cycle for this game as well.
All right, Tal, let's go on to the last news story.
All right, we got some numbers for July here. Let me get past this stuff. This is coming over from Game Industry Biz from Sophie McAvoy. U.S. physical software sales fell to 85 million in July, lowest monthly total since Circana began tracking in 1995. Although Sony will stop producing physical software for new games starting January 2028, PlayStation represented 32% of the consumer spending on new physical games, and Nintendo platforms accounted for 63%. Circana's Matt Pescatella previously reported that 7 PlayStation games have each sold over 100,000 physical units in the U.S. to date. Only 2 games exceeded 10,000 units sold during the week ending July 11th. Hardware spending declined 29% year over year to 282 million, the lowest July total since 2020, and when it reached 163 million. And then total hardware unit sales fell 39% year over year, while the average selling price rose 16% to 542 due to price increases from PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. They go through some more. I'm just trying to see here quick. I'm just going to jump over to the game sales real quick, and then I'll come back to you guys if you want to talk about any of the other numbers that they mentioned here in the article. But the top 10 for July, Call of Duty. Number 1 was Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Number 2 was EA Sports College Football 27. Number 3, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. Number 4, EA Sports MVP Bundle 2026, which I'm not sure what that bundle includes. So I was going to look it up, and I didn't get a chance
crap.
to.
It's the bundle of Madden and college football.
College football, okay.
But here's the crazy thing, DBQ, because I didn't catch this before. That's last year's bundle.
No.
It says 2026.
No, it is. If you in the article, they mentioned that it is this year's bundle, even with the 26.
Okay. That's what you're saying.
Right. It's the year 2026, not the new nomenclature on the game.
So So the
So,
2026 bundle includes college football and Madden 27.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Right.
they make a point in the article to say that if you include the bundle, that college football then outsells Black Ops 2.
Yes. Yeah. Because the bundle means it's a double dip for both Madden and for when Madden hits the chart and college football.
Correct.
Number 5, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Halo campaign evolved. Number 7, Splatoon Raiders, which is the new one from Nintendo the past month. Number 8, Echoes of oh man, I can't read any of this. Handcrad Sword Art Online. Number 9 is Tamagotchi Life Living the Dream. Nice. And then number 10, 007 First Light, which I don't believe the Switch edition has still come out yet for that one, which I'm kind of waiting for because I want to play that one. Anything interesting on, well, I mean, obviously other than the EA bundle, anything that you guys saw on this list here in the article?
I think the fact that both Call of Duty, the remasters or the ports, they're not even remasters really, they're just ports that came out to PlayStation, have sold that well was kind of a surprise. It's not a surprise that college football sold as well because the past 2 years it's been a top seller. But it is the power of Call of Duty is definitely on display here in this case. I think overall, what will be really interesting is what September and October sales look like once the Switch if we see a dip in Switch sales after the price increase at the beginning of September, but we're definitely seeing some of those price increases. It feels like we're seeing the impact of those price increases on the sales in general, as it is overall down year over year and all the way back. You have to go back to 2020, which is right before you were getting new consoles. So sales were really compressed there because both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series were coming that fall.
So I think the thing that jumped out to me is 32% of consumer spending on new physical games was on PlayStation, 32%. 63% was on Nintendo. That's 95%. So this ongoing theory that Xbox is going to pivot into going hard in the paint on physical sales when they contribute only 5% to physical sales probably makes that very unlikely.
There's another news story where they don't even contribute 5% because Circana's data includes physical copies of PC games that were released, so it's even under 5%.
Very good point, DBQ. The chart numbers are super weird to me, and I haven't been able to figure them out. So Call of Duty Black Ops 2 theoretically only includes PlayStation numbers. Anything else would just be in the noise of people who are still buying it elsewhere.
It's got to include Xbox and because the chart shows that it was charting at 67 the month before, which only would have been Xbox numbers at that point. So I think it must include some Xbox numbers, or whatever Xbox sales happened for Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and 2 are rolled into this. But it can't be significant.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm saying at scale, the Xbox numbers are relatively insignificant, right? In it going from 67 to first, that is all done entirely on the back of it being on PlayStation. On PlayStation, it's just a republish, right? It's not nothing was done to the game.
No, nothing at all, and that's been one of its criticisms, is that it's still all the old server exploits and things like that still exist.
So at max sell through, maybe this is 9 million units. Maybe. And how much did it sell for on PlayStation?
$40 each, or like $60 for the bundle, I think is what it was. I'd have to double check, but it wasn't. And remember that it was not $20.
So there are parts of the dynamic that go into this chart that speak to me saying this was a soft month. But what gives me pause to that is the EA Sports College Football 27. Now, maybe the sell through on EA Sports College Football 27 wasn't that huge at launch because it's the third iteration in the series now. And so if you bought 25 and 26, like I don't know that you go right for 27. You're arguably, good for now. I don't know.
I think it also, I mean, potentially you had the microtransaction controversy happening right at the start of the month as well, with the launch of this game, which crossed over into ESPN coverage and Pablo Torre and a whole lot of other places that were outside of normal gaming media.
And as much as as popular as Black Flag Resynced is, like, I don't know that it really did like huge numbers. I thought Ubisoft also mentioned how many units it had sold, like when it crested like 2 million or 3 million or something like that.
Yeah, I think there was a news release around that. Yeah. So yes, in general, I think your assumption of a soft month plays out, and it parallels with the hardware sales.
Okay, and then you have the Echoes of Incrad in here, which I don't even know what that game is. Like, and it's slipping in here at number 8. Like, just I don't believe this was a bonga month for sales. So.
Yeah, right. If something like that is hitting the top 10, yeah, it's a soft month.
Okay. Anything else on this one, Tao or DBQ?
No, for the sake of time, let's wrap up into our third segment.
Yep. So moving on to segment 3, the remainder of games that we have been playing this month. And I will run through these fairly quickly, at least on my end. I've been playing Call of Duty Black Ops 7. That's no secret to anybody. I think the big news for me this week, and it's the only reason I really added it here to the list, is because I did hit Prestige Master for the first time since I've been playing Call of Duty. And that's not because I've done so much worse. It's that because typically, yes, I play a Call of Duty, but like in past years, I always like drop off at like season 3 or only half play seasons or whatever. I also, like I mentioned here in season 5, flipped to just playing hardcore. And since since hitting those prestige levels is driven by the XP, which is driven primarily by kills you get in the game. Obviously, that ramps up right when you're playing hardcore. So I've had a good time with it. I have, I think, made my peace with Call of Duty, and like I'm out of the zone of like playing it as a default or because it's the only thing I have time to, and then getting frustrated or burnt out by the grind and then falling off of it. I think I've landed and seated at a place where it fits in my schema, and I get it. And like I said, playing hardcore is wonderful because it cuts out all the the vast majority of the movement kitty BS. And now that I've hit Prestige Master and I've completed the Battle Pass with 25 days left in the season, and 2 months to go before the next Call of Duty releases, I can kind of play. I would kind of say in air quotes casually, meaning I'm not necessarily playing casually, but I'm not wrapped around the axle, right, and have anxiety, right, about the things that I'm trying to get done. Also went back and hit up EA Sports College Football 26. Did that today. Went back to continuing my season as the head coach of Missouri. I am ranked, I think. I was at 13th before I just played a big slobber knocker of a game against Texas, who came into the game ranked 4th, and played them in their home stadium, and was able to squeak out a win at 14-10. Nice. I realized I keep struggling with this, like, what passing mode do I want it in? And I thought I had it. I'm reading the descriptions, and so I had picked the one that said, this makes it mainly up to the player stats. But what happens is that is still a mode where, like, you're putting like a speed, like a leader thing pip on the screen or whatever. And so I flipped it back to classic. I was like, I don't want all that. I just want, I push a button and it's up to my quarterback skill and the receiver skill and the coverage skill. And I don't want any kind of speed leading pip or whatever. I just want it the old fashioned way with like, it's how long I hold the button that tells you, right, whether it's a soft arc or a bullet. And I just want to leave it at that. And so
that's the way I'm playing on 27 as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I also played Kentucky before that game with Texas, and kind of, I wouldn't say blew them out, but it was like a 20 something to like 3 game. And it was when I made that flip that I started playing a lot better. So I'm continuing to have fun. Yeah.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think one of the things that really I've enjoyed 27 more than 25 and 26 is the addition of the NIL, right? Like in the recruiting, because I'm now in my 7th season and have gone to big teams and gone back to tiny kind of small teams, and you run out of NIL for big stars, or like even if you could potentially recruit a 5-star blue chip, you can't pay them. And so it really creates a different set of challenges than simply just recruiting based on your own performance.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games where I've just delegated all the recruiting out. You know, I did the recruiting like in EA College Football 25. But when I rolled into 26, I was just like, I want to get seasons in. You know, they can handle all the recruiting, and I'll just go on from there. So it's a super interesting season. My quarterback, who had been with you, who is still in my lineup, but apparently we brought in a really smoking hot freshman named. He's got a great name, Sean Blades. He's my starting QB, so I'm having a lot of fun playing that. And I've got S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chernobyl on the rundown too. I didn't play that much of it, but the main reason I wanted to include it in the rundown is because I want to bring attention to the fact that Update 2.0 just rolled out along with their DLC. And that's got graphical improvements and yada yada, and performance improvements and all that, and that's great. But the really important thing to me is that it brought in differentiated difficulty settings. And so I think we well know, I am not a survival game guy. And so this is a first-person shooter survival game. So it's got all the survival stuff, right, in the OODA loop associated with that. And like when you're crossing through like radioactive areas, then like you take damage, and then you have to find like things to heal heal specifically radioactive damage, which is different than your heals for regular damage, and blah, blah, blah. All a lot of baggage that game logic doesn't personally like being burdened by all the time, right? So it is super cool that now it's got like 5 different, I think, difficulty settings. So you can crank down the level of difficulty on like those survival elements and like the economy, but then leave the combat challenging. So I did start a run over where I then went in. It took me a little bit to figure out how do you go in. It's kind of in a weird place in the UI to set those custom difficulty settings. But that to me is like a huge game changer in the value prop of that game. So I am having a good time going in and checking that out, and I believe that will remain consistent because there will be lots of stuff that was kind of a pain in the butt the first time I made my approach on the game that will hopefully be a little less burdensome this time. So Tao, you have also been playing a game with a ball.
Yes, I have been playing a sports ball game. Still play these next 2. I mean, I've talked about in nauseam probably, but I haven't really been playing much lately. And I don't know. I don't want to say I'm in a funk, but it's more just like I don't have time. Like I just sit down and I just want to play something like really quick. So went back to Fortnite. I mentioned that a couple weeks ago when I was on, and obviously I'm always playing Rocket League, but continue to play MLB The Show 23. Like I mentioned last time, still in AAA. Can't get into the majors. But no, I'm just tooling around, and I'm at 2033 now season. About halfway through that, I believe, because I just did the All-Star games. And just having some fun.
You've been in the minors for 10 years in that game?
Yes, sir. I did move up from double to triple at halfway through, but I just can't. I don't know what I got to do. Like I literally have like a 4.20 something like ERA right now, or I mean batting average. Excuse me. I've been like that for like half the season. Like I thought they called me up, but nothing. Like I don't know what I got to do to get into the majors in this game. But I'm still having fun. I mean, I really like this game. Obviously, this is 3 years old now. There's there's a few iterations, but I think we talk about this, DB. Like they didn't make a Switch. It was just made for Switch, not Switch 2. So I was like, I'll wait till next year to see how it is. I think I played there was like a free weekend, I think a couple months ago, and yeah, animation wise, it looked good. It was better, but I thought the graphics kind of looked worse than 23, which was kind of weird. So I just figured I'll just stick with this one for now. So just having a ton of fun with it, though. And it's baseball, so we're winding down here on baseball. I think next couple months, so I might stop after once the season ends. Might keep going, who knows? But and then the other game, No Man's Sky. Obviously this is a big, huge, game, but you can go in there and just concentrate on a few things, which I pretty much do right now. I'm just kind of looking for like Corvette parts. I'm going to try to build another Corvette, which is like the ship you can build on your own now. And then just doing some of the arena battles, which is basically like the Pokemon battles where you can, find creatures on different planets and, have them battle in like a holographic arena. So I'm just kind of tooling around the galaxies or the planets and, solar systems and finding different creatures and Corvette parts right now. Just kind of messing around. They had their big 10-year anniversary. What was it, last week, a week before maybe? They released the trailer, which was just kind of going back, showing all their updates they had done. And then at the very end, they had announced the new Cosmos update, which basically all they announced was the name. There hasn't been any other details since then, so we don't know what it is yet. Plenty of rumor and speculation, but nothing official from Hello Games yet, or from Sean Murray. So we don't know if it's like a total overhaul or if it's, who knows what it is. But looking forward to that. Hopefully that comes out soon, since they at least, got the name out there. But still haven't heard anything yet. But hopefully within the next few weeks or so, we'll get something on that. Then I'll continue to play it. So play that new update.
I mean, 10 years in the minors isn't that unrealistic, DBQ, like kind of like Jake Taylor and Roger Dorn from Major League Baseball, from Major League.
Just a bit outside.
So rounding out the show with a quick discussion of significant releases this week. Also want to put out a reminder that it is the week of Gamescom, and so Gamescom opening night is Tuesday, the 25th, at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Show's expected to be 2 hours, so 2 to 4 p.m. And then on Wednesday, the 26th, you will have the Future Game Show at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That is also expected to be in an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes. So probably I would just block off 2 hours to watch that, or watch it on the rewind on YouTube after you get home from work. Significant releases this week. This is a pretty big week. 1666 Amsterdam comes out in early access on PC. I know that opinions on that will be split with the whole discussion of Gen AI that team is using to some extent. I don't know really too much, but the game looked solid, so it looked very interesting and looked very interesting graphically. So I suspect it will get some traction on Steam. We'll see. Aliens Fireteam Elite 2. So that 1666 Amsterdam hits early access on PC on August 25th. Also hitting on August 25th is Aliens Fireteam Elite 2, coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Once Human also makes its jump over to console on August 25th. So I forgot to double check this and look this up, but Tao, this is their survival game that's been on PC for a while.
Yeah, kind of action survival. Yep.
Yeah. Kind of got off to a rocky launch, but it has definitely turned itself around and has much improved opinions from the Steam user community. So It'll be interesting to see this hit console. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2 comes out on August 27th, coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch 2, Switch, and PC. And DBQ, maybe I think that includes 2 of the Metal Gear Solid games?
It includes Metal Gear Solid 4 and Peace Walker, originally on the PSP, And then it also includes the GB Color version, or the Ghost Babel, so which plays very much similar to the original Metal Gear on NES.
Okay. A game that I have suddenly pivoted and become interested in is Residents: A Plague Tale Legacy, which lands on August 27th, coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Star Wars Zero Company, coming out also on August 27th, coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. And finally, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, coming to Switch 2 on August 28th. So it is a bonga week in new releases. And like I said, the release calendar only catches heat as we move forward. Those two shows this week, Gamescom opening night and Future Game Show, the big thing is that what we've seen over the last 2 years is that the release calendar and slate, like the feet dragging, has continued and gotten greater and greater over the last couple of years. And so last year, as late as like October, we were being told about games that were coming out in November. So I expect to see a slew of announcements of games that are still going to launch this year. So as busy as September and October already are, we're going to still get more stuff stuffed into them, is my prediction. So hopefully there will be updates on Exodus and what is the game that I keep confusing Exodus with In the Expanse? So hopefully we'll see those this week. Would not surprise me if Hello Games doesn't announce something during this show, whether or not they have an update on I forget what is their new game that they're doing on Earth.
Light No Fire.
Yeah, Light No Fire. Or just do the update that you mentioned, Tao, about any new DLC coming to No Man's Sky.
Hopefully.
So it's going to be another pretty bonga week for news, both good news and bad news, of leaks and physical versus digital and so on and so forth. So should be pretty interesting. Tao, DBQ, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
I was going to say Resonance. That's kind of the more actiony take on that on that game, right? Okay, yeah, because I know the other ones are kind of more stealthy. The first couple of ones, or three, I can't remember how many there were of the Plague Tales. Yeah, that one looked pretty good. Yeah,
there were two prequels to this one, but as you mentioned, because they are more stealthy, games, I've been mulling it over in my mind, but I don't feel any obligation to go back and check those games out. I think I will just see how this action-oriented one kind of lands and go from there. All right, thanks so much for everybody who came through the live chat. If I did mention you by name, I apologize. I think I mentioned Ramon Sorrell, but if I didn't, thanks so much for coming through. Thanks so much, Josama, for stepping in. Thanks so much, Soil Tech, for coming through as well. We'll be back next week, probably to talk about them two shows that I mentioned, Gamescom and Future Game Show. Tao Master will be in the host seat, and DBQ and I will be flying back up. So thanks so much for, like I said, for everybody who came through the chat. If you happen to watch the video on demand archive version of this episode on the E2KG Network podcast channel on YouTube, please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can just get a notification whenever we post new content. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, play the games that you like, come here to talk to us about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, one of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going, a weekly video games podcast, here with my partners in crime, TowMaster99 and DBQ Hams. That's going to do it for us tonight. Good night, good luck, and good gaming. We will see you guys next week.